Hey everyone, this is 2 a.m. post-editing Kassir. So Brandon and I ended up talking for well over an hour, but a lot of that time was me saying and like and all those fun words and asking the same questions a few times. So I was just kind of anxious because don't do stuff like this often, and I kind of flopped. So what I did was I cut this down to the most interesting bits. So it's not as long as it was originally, but yeah, it's still a pretty good conversation. I think you guys will enjoy it. Yeah, I'm very eepy now. So enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye. Oh, and again, thank you, Bran, for doing this with me. All right, bye everybody. Hello everyone, I'm sitting here with TheMrHeadache, and with all the discussion around the Xenomorph recently, I wanted to talk to an expert. So if you want to introduce yourself, feel free. I'm sure everyone knows who you are.
Hi, I'm Brand, the Mr. Headache. I have a lot of accolades, I guess you would call them, to put it as big an accolade you could have in a silly, zany, or RNG video game. Number 5, Xenomorph Total Tail Tax. Number 1, NA. And I also wrote the guide on the character that you see in Otz's character guide sheet. So, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so that kind of kickstarted this whole thing. Speaking of Otz, the tier list was kind of a real conversation started for a lot of people, and me and you talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to actually kind of talk about it for more than just a minute or two, like we did. So to kind of start things off, what I want to ask is, with all the discussion around the character right now, do you think people are going to start to actually learn the counterplay more than they already had? Because it really does seem like the vast majority of your normal public matches, like I'm not good with the character and I still experience this, but people will just put the turrets next to the tunnels and they don't really understand why it's not working. So do you think that with all the discussion right now, people are going to start to learn how to play against the character?
I think people will definitely replicate what they see in Otz's video because what Otz says has such a wide-reaching audience to get to. But I also do have the I don't know if it's a feeling, but I know a lot of people just simply are frustrated with built-in counterplay from the Survivor side, and that's a sentiment I've heard echoed from many Survivor creator. So I feel like a lot of it is not as much learning for a lot of people, but also just like a refusal or an irritation that they even have to. So maybe not as much as you would think, but yes.
So do you, with that built-in counterplay, do you think that is, I guess, more prevalent with Xenomorph than it would be with someone like Nemesis or Wesker, or do you think it's less annoying as compared to those killers?
So like with like Wesker and Nemesis, you continue to play the game, and those objects, another EMP from Singularity is another fantastic example of something that's supposed to like kind of stave off the killer, and it's more like survivor focused in terms of like, okay, well, I'm trying to defend myself from the killer. In terms of the flame turrets, even though they are utilized by the survivors, it's essentially a chore for you. It's something that you have to do as a teamwork to justify keeping your power. So I think that it's definitely below them in that regard, and fits somewhere more like with like Pinhead with like the box, where if you get a really good team rotating the box, it can be miserable, but if they're not, then obviously that's to your benefit.
Yeah, I don't know, because I personally find that pretty interesting as Survivor. Like, I enjoy rotating, like, for Pinhead, for an example. I enjoy the box as part of the game. I enjoy it for Pig, too, other than, they're not just tunneling me off traps. But, I don't know, I guess that's more of an unpopular opinion at this point. It might have something to do with the fact that there's just so many killers like that now that have their own side objectives.
I have heard that sentiment from a lot of people, that they're tired of side objectives and they're tired of anti-loop, because most killers come with one or the other, and sometimes both, like with the Xenomorph's case. So
it seems like that's definitely more of a design choice at this point to try and make killers stronger. Because I remember when I started playing the game, it was, for the most part, this killer is really good at one thing and everything else they're just kind of all right at. But nowadays, it feels like every killer is at least decent at everything. Going off that, though, what do you think would make a map good for Xeno in comparison to, like, everyone else? Because it's not really an M1 killer. It can kind of do everything, like we just said.
So I have a full map tier list in the Xenomorph guide that I wrote, and it's basically based on two main criteria with some variation that's general for killer. The two main criteria for Xenomorph are the loops tail attack friendly, meaning can you thread the 14 centimeter hitbox through and around the objects. Also, that also has to do with collision being accurate or not, and also the quality of killer belonging placements, or in this case, the control station placements in particular. So like a good map for Xenomorph would have obviously fairly spaced out control station spawns. You don't have to use the cut coin tech to put a control station in the main building. And then a lot of loops where you can use the tail attack without much friction.
Was just out of curiosity, was Xeno affected by the snow piles like Sadako was?
Yes, but in my opinion, it's over exaggerated. Like, there's definitely matches I realize I'm like, man, I just don't have a control station on that side of the map at all. Gee, thanks. But if you, I don't know, if you're one of those people that's like, oh well, now I just don't want to play the character, I think that's a little too far as well.
What is the Terra Radius and Crawler mode, by the way?
24.
24. I always thought it was 16. I just kind of assumed.
No, that would be good.
That would be good. Would you like to see that changed?
I would like to see the motion sensors changed, and then we go from there. Because currently, no stealth or no undetectable, no oblivious, anything like that. Any survivor that's like, oh, that beeping is getting closer and closer, I should probably skedaddle. It doesn't matter if you're running topside with undetectable or in the tunnels with undetectable. It doesn't matter if they're oblivious. They hear beep, 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 and they go, I should probably move.
So, like, pre-running's exceptionally strong against Xeno.
I think it's funny because I watch so many people, like, and I don't mean this, how do I say this politely? I see a lot of people, like, play Xeno, and there is killer-based MMR, so they don't main Xeno. So they'll just, like, plop on Xeno, and they'll be like, oh, look, see, I'm running Unforeseen, and all the survivors are falling for my attacks and my stealth. See, stealth's good on the character. But, like, I play all the time, and even when I'm not running undetectable perks, which is most of the time, people just pre-run a lot. And it's because, you know why? Because even if they put the turret right in front of the control station like they shouldn't, that at least gave them the motion sensor. So they pre-run. So I spend a lot of time running at people because, if they're paying attention, they pre-run.
Especially with how strong Sprint Burst is right now, too. That's got to be so annoying. I think people are scared to see killers that are higher on the tier list get buffed. Like, they'll see, like, when Unknown got changed, people are like, why are we changing this killer? And I saw people be like, oh, they're totally going to buff it. Like, for example, Freddy. Like, before people even played it on the BTB, people were like, oh, this killer's going to be insane. So do you think if Xenomorph did get changed, there would be a big backlash to it?
Yes, but I think it depends on what happens. I think that Xenomorph, in terms of changes, needs kind of like sweeping, make everybody happy changes. So that would come in the form of like buffing the stealth for the character's base kit. That would also come with more visual and audio cue for the tail attack. It does have it, but it's just so quick that people hate it. So you would kind of have to like tackle both sides of that to make everybody a happy bunch.
So in terms of playing against Xeno as Survivor, what is like, if you had to nerf Xenomorph in some way to make it better for Survivor, what would you do?
The tail attack, the main issue people have with is that they can't really react to it. You can play against it. It's just like very, very high skill ceiling. You have to do a lot of things like you do with Nemesis, which is like dodging out of the way last second by baiting and that sort of thing. Well, first off, very minor things. So if like behavior is giving me like, okay, you have like 15 minutes. This is all you have. I'm like, I'm going to make that audio cue louder that it has, and make the visual cue more exaggerated so you see it more clearly. Because his tail does arc up, but it's a 0.4 second wind up, so it's like super fast. If I have more time to work on it and I have more creative control, I might start, doing buffs on the Xenomorph's back end, but then making that wind up longer. I
think there's a lot of little things with Xenomorph that people don't appreciate. Like this is such a like nerdy thing, but like the audio cues for that killer and the way I remember the first time I saw it, playing against it on Survivor, it genuinely felt like I was playing Isolation, and I was like, "Oh, this is so sick."
Dude, when somebody gets burned or when somebody burns the Xenomorph like successfully on the Survivor side, and you're playing on their team, and you hear the screech and then that really cool like Isolation-esque like music sting, like it hits so good.
I also think the killer like has a lot of like funny noises it makes. Like stunning it is always hilarious. It's like up there with Pig and Myers for me.
It kind of has that like Hunter's effect where like initially like you'll stun her and then she just like progressively starts like huffing and grunting because like first you'll stun the Xenomorph and then it screeches, but then it like hisses really bad and you're like oh god.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to like I did not like the chapter for a long time, and I didn't understand. And I think it literally like I didn't understand then, but I think it was just like an actual skill issue. Out of curiosity, why do you think people consider the chapter such a flop?
Multiple things. First off, there's no gestation aspect of the character involved in the kit at all. So no face huggers, no chest bursting, and that's like half the movie if you watch them. So people are like, "Where's that part?" There's an excellent rework by a friend named Smug. You guys should go check that out on their Twitter. Did a very excellent job reworking the character to involve that. But Sigourney Weaver did not give her likeness. She did not give rights to her likeness. So Ripley is their version of Ripley, which is similar to what they did with Laurie, but Laurie had a comic inspiration, so she kind of looked vaguely okay, at least in a remake version. If you OGs remember, old Laurie also looked terrible. I feel like a combination of lack of stealth as a stealth IP character, along with missing half of the character's identity, with the main heroine's actress not providing her likeness, kind of like created a lot of issues. But apparently it's getting us the best chapter that we're gonna get. So apparently it wasn't that bad.
I do feel like it started to come around in like the second half, so to speak. Like I feel like people are starting to come around to the chapter. I see Ripley a lot more than I used to.
Oh, also, this is like if you weren't into DBD at the moment when that was happening, this is another thing, is that the DLC was upcharged compared to every other like duo character DLC because you were forced, if you bought it through Steam, to get the aliens fit and the little dumb tracker with the DLC, and you could not opt out of it. It was supposed to be like a new FOMO thing with like, hey, if you buy them together, you get this fit, but you couldn't opt out of it either. So everybody's like, why am I paying like $13 for this thing?
I thought you were going to talk about TCM coming out, because I thought that was a part of it for sure. Because Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like super hype when it first dropped. I really enjoyed that game for like the first week, and I was like, oh, I'm done.
I saw it go through the same cycle that VHS did, where everybody's like, guys, I think this game's starting to like kind of show its flaws. I think if these things continue, that this game won't be fun anymore. And just like with VHS, they kind of went, well, I think you're complaining too much.
Discussed at the time, but the Survivor side of the chapter was a bit weak in comparison, because Xenomorph was always recognized as strong. And, like, people who wanted a new good new Survivor stuff, because this was during MFT, and, like, we all knew MFT was going to get nerfed, so people didn't have very much longer left with that. So I think people wanted something to replace that with, and they got Lucky Star.
Although I would argue that stuff like MMT definitely shouldn't be the bench marker for stuff we want in the game, because it like throttled a meta for a really long time.
Oh, definitely not. No, that was miserable. If anyone in the comments thinks I'm defending MFT, I promise I'm not. But like, people who played Survivor loved MFT.
I think like the benchmark should be something like Champion Elite, right? Fun perk, but helpful perk. Good, but not really that strong. Some people will take it, never take it off. We see that with like Dramaturgy Finesse now. By themselves, not really that crazy. Together, spunky combo. But, people run them. Sometimes they don't. They're not super OP, super undefeatable, but they're just good.
And we're starting to get out of it, but I think there was a bit of a drought for Survivor perks for a good while. Especially during like the 3 gens.
People still feel that way. I know a lot of Survivor main content creators that I follow are just, they still feel like their builds are so like hard locked.
For sure. I agree with that. Like genuinely. I think like there's like 6 perks. Like whenever I play Killer, I feel like I can put a multitude of perks on. I can go, oh, I'm gonna go full chase this game, or I'm gonna go, be really fun and bring 4 slowdowns. But as Survivor, it feels like, okay, gen perk, heal perk, chase perk. Like, that's what it is, Like, I think the last really good perk they got was Finesse.
I think it's a similar situation because, and I will say this very cautiously, I still think 4-man on comms is the strongest thing in the game. Please don't hurt me. I feel like the way not to include D&D terms here, power game and ruin it for everybody else. Because realistically, the power ranking of like players in DBD and side by side would go like 4-man Swift, and then like Nurse, Blight, Billy, and then it would go like 3-man on comms, and then it would go some of A tier, and then it would go like a 2-man, and then more killers, and then so on and so forth. But that 4 and 3-man scenario, running the best stuff, abusing the best stuff, is why we can't have good things. And it hurts. It's like nerds bottlenecking good perks for us as killers. Like, Wicked Awareness still didn't get reverted.
How do you feel on the speaking about four-mans, how do you feel about the argument of like bouncing around Swift?
I feel like when you're making a general game for everybody, that you need to balance for everybody, which is like such a overwhelming thing to say, but like realistically, yeah, you gotta account for as many playstyles and perspectives as you can. Like, you gotta have things be fun for the four-man group that's like really wanting to optimize the game, because optimization is fun, but also you got to make it to where like solo queue Timmy isn't having the worst time of his life every single game.
I really enjoy solo queue. I know a lot of people don't, but I think it's really fun. But I also don't take Survivor super serious.
I prefer solo queue to playing with like not a four-man on comms. It's either four-man on comms or solo queue, and I partial or like a four-man no comms. Like, it's just my expectations get skewed is the problem, because like in a four-man on comms, even if the expectation is clearly set in the voice call, are we trying, are we not, and then we just either we mess around or we try it, and it's like whatever. In solo queue, I have no expectations. I'm like, it's solo queue, anything can happen, and I'm cool with that. I have signed up for this.
We got so off topic. Oh well, it's fine. Sometimes it's what it is. But so when it comes to Xenomorph, my personal take is like, it came out in a time period where D was kind of in a rough spot. Like 3gen was still a thing. What was 3gen still a thing? Yeah, because I remember I remember the what was the Team Eternal versus that streamer. But like, when it came out, do you feel like the Xenomorph has evolved with the meta pretty much? Like, does it fit into this meta with pain res, etc., etc.?
Considering the fact that Xenomorph does not synergize with a whole lot of perks, the only perks they've ever really synergized really well with are vault perks, kick perks, and slowdown.
How do you feel about hex builds for Xenomorph?
They're okay. We were doing like a mental health awareness month. I think it was November or October, and one of the challenges we had to do to raise awareness was to only run hex perks, because like candles is like a big symbolism for that. And I just ran hex perks for like all of that month, and like Xenomorph does benefit from that in the sense that you can kind of go check on your totems, make sure nobody's cracking them, because you have 18 meters a second in the tunnels, and you have footstep readings, so you can see them approaching the hex totem. If you're within 16 meters of a totem, you can hear it being actively worked on. So you can kind of defend your totems that way. It's just that, like, once again, besides like, you know, the usual suspects like Penimento, I just think hex perks are that good. And then like you have other, well, what about Devour? It's like, once again, M2 killer, you know? So a lot of like the common ones of like, oh yeah, but I could run this. You could run Blood Favor, but also you're an anti-loop killer. I could run Crowd Control. I'm an anti-loop killer. So it's like, you see where this is kind of like, you're running out of options. But it's like, I'm suffering for my own success, right? Because like, yeah, I could block that pallet, or I could force them to lock the animation and just hit them. So why am I running a perk to do this?
I have a few questions from the community. Oh, by the way, everyone, if you want to be a part of these questions next time, join the Discord server. How do you see turrets as kind of a forced counterplay? We talked about that earlier. And if so, what are your thoughts on the turrets being removed?
The turrets being removed? I would rather see them replaced, not removed. Like I was mentioning earlier, not my idea. Not my idea. Looking at the invisible camera, it's not my idea. But our friend Smug made an excellent Xenomorph rework where they made the flame turrets into the little motion sensor that you have in Alien Isolation. So you have a little handheld tracker you have with you, and it has like, I think it has like a 16 meter range. So it's more like as if you were a stealth killer, but it's personal. So you carry it with you more like a Singularity EMP. And you as a Xenomorph still have some agency to try and like see people with them and try to break them. Same way with Singularity, how you want to, you know, biopod slipstream them to try and get it out of their hands so you can actually commence the chase. Kind of making it more in line with EMPs and less such a big presence in the flow of gameplay, if that makes sense.
I like the idea of the motion sensor. I think that's really cool. I also wish they had leaned more into stealth for Xenomorph. It is kind of a shame. Like, I do think there are a lot of stealth killers in the game right now, but I personally really enjoy them, so I don't mind.
it's one of those characters that like I honestly I don't think needs a rework, but like when you see now characters like Dracula that are essentially 3 different characters in one, it's like how characters very early on in DBD are just like so simple. And it's because they just didn't know how to make complicated characters yet. We weren't at that point. I think trying to shove all of Xenomorph into one character without just like bulldozing the survivors is a very, very complicated thing that isn't going to work really. But maybe it will if we do it the right way. But like it's going to be difficult either way. So I think that's why they just went the safe, like, well, it uses its tail in like every movie it's in. And that's like a well-known thing, is that it does the little sharp tail stab. So let's just have that be its main power. And instead of having it, crawling above you, because there's no ceiling on like 90% of the maps, we'll just do under the map. See, that makes sense. So we got it good enough. So I feel like the ideal thing would be someday, now that we have complicated killers like Dracula, like 3
One final question from
like
the community,
Vecna, who is like 4 different powers
from Basil once again.
one.
Do you think Dead by Daylight will get the labor of love in 2025?
More of the character features.
I've been having this conversation so much lately, and it's kind of funny.
The
answer is no.
And I feel, but I made a whole video about this. But essentially, like, I love DVD. I think it's great.
If I get that,
but like, I also go to Taco Bell. I know Taco Bell's not fine dining, but I pay like $7. I get a lot of food.
Like
it fills me up, and it tastes good.
As bad as Freddy, where it's like, oh, I'm a man with like a man with gloves.
If Taco Bell approached me and was like, "Hey, I know you're here all the time, but like, can you get our fine dining award? Can you vote for us?" I'd be like, "I love you, but you ain't fine dining."
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Like, I love Dead by Daylight, but like the jankiness of DBD is like
they had three fixes in this latest patch that just didn't. It'd be like Chad, and it wasn't like we misread it. Like they just outright didn't work, and we like people had to tweet at them like, no, this actually isn't functioning correctly. And it's in their fix list. And this is like the second time this has happened in like 3 months, where they're like, hey guys, this bug is fixed now. And it's not.
Like, obviously, like, the epilepsy bugs are not fun, of course, but like, that one generator bug, like, when Knight got his rework, where like gens would just randomly pop out of nowhere, or like they would just get finished without telling you, that was hilarious to me. Like, everyone was so mad. I'm like, this is just classic DBD. It feels like 2019 again.
I had a 4-man Swift that was like taking the game way too seriously, who swears to this day that bug I was making up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because I watched it happen. Because I guess they didn't know I had aura reading at the moment, and the one person did the gen and then 2 popped, and they're like, "Oh, he's being a sore loser." And I was like, "No, it's a well-known bug. Ask anybody."
I think that's all I have for you. But if you want to promote anything, feel free right now.
Christmas, very good, very happy time, but it's not a good and happy time for a lot of people. So I know Christmas is a time of giving, but just because we've rolled over into January doesn't mean we can, lose that spirit. So maybe check in on whatever your favorite cause is. Give them like $10. It's like a cost of a Big Mac. Just a little bit.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. The links to the community Discord, as well as my Twitch and Brand's Twitch, will both be in the description below, as well as Brand's channel. Again, thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Please have a great day.